Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results. Hi, I'm Perry Holley, a Maxwell Leadership facilitator and coach.
And I'm Chris Goede, Executive Vice President with Maxwell Leadership. Welcome and thank you for joining. I do want to encourage you before we get started, if you'll go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast, if you'll click on this podcast, there you'll be able to download a learner guide that Perry's created for you. Also, you can leave a comment or a question, or maybe a leadership challenge that you're having that you'd love for us to unpack in the future, and we'll do our best to be able to serve you in that way. Well, today's topic is titled, How Leaders Handle Criticism. Criticism. I'm not sure. I've never had criticism before. As far as I know, at least to my face, or I've like shut down my ears, right? I went into a space where no one could hear me and I couldn't hear anybody else. But man, this is something that for me, it's at the core of growth, right? Like we've got to get as leaders, no matter what your role is, no matter how long you've been a tenure, it doesn't matter. We've got to figure this out. Yeah. So I'm super excited about talking about it.
I had a coaching client. He said had received some criticism about some decision or something. And then he just said, I don't know why I want to be in leadership. I don't know why I decided to do this. And I remember John saying that leaders can count on two things. One, you're going to get criticized. And two, it's going to affect you or change you. And I just wondered, that last one, does it change you? What do you think about that?
Yes. And I think it should, because I think that John talks a lot about evaluating your experiences, not just the experience, but if you evaluate the experience and the things that you could then learn from that criticism or that experience will make you better. So how do you take a position as a leader to let it shape you and your leadership, not define who you are? And so you and I could both sit here and for the next days probably talk about criticism that we have received over our leadership careers. Some of it we would say is extremely valid. Others we would probably maybe question. But if we go through it the right process, it should have shaped us. It should have impacted us in one way or another. Now, at times it impacted me on a negative side. At times, maybe it was positive. And I think that we've got to be open to that and figure out, what are the triggers? How do we go through the process? How do we learn from it? How do we evaluate it? But I do think it should absolutely change you.
I agree. I remember being a young leader and being criticized, and how, I don't know if I just kind of was a slap in the face of, wait a minute, I thought everybody liked me. Everybody would love what I do. Everybody was going to be with me.
Here comes Perry.
I don't know what I was thinking. It was naive at best, but to wake up to the fact that not everybody's going to like what you do. Not everybody's going to be on your side. Not everybody's going to pull for you. Although we try hard, we talk about the 5 levels and building those relationships, building that connection, building that common ground, and showing that we're trying to help people, that we care for people, and that you can trust me, those types of things. But as we put those together, think about how I can learn to handle criticism better. And part of it, I have several points here, but one of them, number one, was to maintain my humility in the fact that, as impressed as I am with myself, not everybody else is going to be, and maybe I shouldn't be so much. It's just remain humble in the fact that I don't know everything. I won't get everything right. I'm open to what other people think. I'm doing my best, but that humility of not thinking less of myself, but thinking of myself less, putting myself in other people's shoes to do that. So
I love that you're starting with this, maintain your humility. I think we could even almost put it where you're going to have to increase your humility, right? To your point. And I think the more seasoned you are, you're much more seasoned than I am. I think when you go down that road, I think it is about maintaining, because you have learned, right, over the years. And we still have flaws. We still struggle. We still talk about it with our inner circle, and it may bother us, but you understand that. But I think as leaders are growing and as learning, if you have a pretty big ego, then I'm just telling you, remember, leadership career also means your influence career. So that means you're going to get criticism from people that aren't even necessarily directly working with you day to day. And they're going to have a perspective that is their perspective, and they're going to criticize you without maybe even knowing the complete story. And so how do you not get caught up in that? How do you allow your ego? How do you increase your humility in those types of situations and other situations as a leader, so that you're not immediately defending and you're not reacting, but yet, to your point, you're sitting in that and maintaining your humility through that, so that we can learn from it.
I think of Tim Elmore teaching us to
I know where you're going. It's so good.
yeah, to be confident and humble at the same time. And then his again, another Tim Elmore was, I talk like I'm right, a lot of confidence coming out of me, but I listen like I'm wrong, which is where the humility kicks in. I think, I can act like I'm right, but when I get the criticism, I listen like I'm wrong. Tell me more.
Yeah. And I love he wrote that book, Leadership Paradoxes, to your point, because that is relevant. That is prevalent in our leadership. There are going to be paradoxes, and this is kind of one of them. So I absolutely love that. Well, the second one is, face the criticism squarely. And when you talk about listen like I'm wrong, I wrote down here, be curious. We hadn't talked about curious in several weeks,
good, yeah.
right? But we love this word, because I think leaders that are extremely curious become better leaders. But in regards to this, really try to be curious about where that criticism is coming from without getting defensive. That's hard for me, right? Like, I'm an achiever. If you follow the Enneagram, we do all kinds of personality profiles. I'm an Enneagram 3, and it's about achievement. And so if someone criticizes that something didn't get done right, I immediately go personally. And especially when it is a personal, a person that is tied to you personally,
Right.
Because you just get defensive more than you do, professionally at times. And so how do you get to a point where you be curious? And I was listening to a Craig Groeschel podcast, which, by the way, phenomenal leadership podcast. And he was talking about really interviewing people, but he was learning more about people. And he's like, I really have to get to the third question before I really even start to get to the root of where that answer came from. I wonder if that's the same thing in regards to people being critical of us. And so how do we face it? How do we want to learn from it? I think you got to be curious through it. The other thing I think is you just got to make sure that you understand it's their perspective, but evaluate it, evaluate what they're saying to you. And then if there is an opportunity, I shouldn't say if, because we don't want to leave it on my shoulders to make this decision. I would say then evolve from what you're hearing and understand, it is criticism, and we can use it for good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that facing it squarely, to me, is that head on of just tell me the truth. Is it criticism or is it constructive feedback?
Right.
And
that's right.
And I'm trying to decide, I'm discerning that, is it worthy of my attention? Is it worthy of my paying attention? And so while I appreciate you felt the comfort to criticize me, are you trying to help me?
Yeah.
Or are you trying to make yourself feel better?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Back to several weeks ago, we did a podcast on, leaders who just want followers, right? Where are you coming from? The other thing I'll say too is that we are also not encouraging people that feel like they don't feel safe with the criticism that they may be receiving to sit in it, right? We're not encouraging that whatsoever. That's a completely different story. But I think understanding their perspective and really trying to be curious about that, I think will shed light on where that motive is coming from.
That's a good word right there.
That you'll be able to intuitively probably be able to tell them.
Yeah, that's kind of that's a great word. I didn't have that, but the difference between criticism and constructive feedback may be motive.
Maybe the motive.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Number 3 was be specific about the issue itself. So it kind of follows on. I'm going to face it squarely, but you can't just say I don't feel that you did. No, tell me the specifics about the situation. I want to get details because I can't fix what I don't understand.
Yeah.
But I also want to know, do I have a problem or do you have a problem? And if I have a problem, go back. Number 1, embrace my humility. I want to hear from you. I want you to feel free to speak to me. I want you to feel that you have a voice, but I have to validate. I tell people this, executives this all the time when we're doing 360 assessments. And if you're not familiar with 360, that people above you, beside you, and below you anonymously tell you what they think about you. It's a very humbling experience. But I also say, consider the source, and you tell me if it's coming from your peers and they're telling you this. Peers have different motives.
Yes.
Your boss telling you is probably motivated, probably from a good place, trying to make you better. If your people are telling you this, that's probably from a pretty good place. They're trying to make you better. Is it worthy of your attention? Is it, you're allowed to say, thank you very much, and then put it aside.
100%.
But you're also, I think it's wise to say, like you said, be curious. Tell me more. But give me the specifics. Tell me, was it a situation? Was it an event? Was it an action? Was it a words? What exactly are you criticizing?
Yeah.
You can't just criticize it didn't feel right.
Right.
I need to know the specifics of it.
Well, in doing that, to your point, I love the fact you said, I mean, tell me, like, what, give me a situation. If you can't get that, don't just say, oh, well, then they don't understand and just walk away. No, be curious. Ask targeted questions. Don't allow, like, if they have that criticism, try to learn from it, try to dig and truly understand. The only way you can do that is by asking targeted questions if they're not willing to give you the specifics. I know for me, I've been through an experience before where I've received some criticism, and someone once told me, they said, hey, if it's just one time, okay, it's probably a signal. Be aware of it, learn from it. But if it is something that you're hearing a common theme and it happens multiple times, well, maybe that's a pattern. And he said to me, and a pattern needs to be a priority of yours, right? And that is like, hey, it's more than happening more than one person, more than one time. And so that's why Perry and I are challenging you, saying, man, get to the specifics and really dig in and get targeted questions. Be curious to try to figure that out, because you want to know, you want to improve. You don't want there to be patterns in there of your influence with people.
Hey, podcast listeners. Many of you listening right now would probably love the autonomy that comes with owning your own business or becoming a coach that helps other businesses succeed. Well, we have a phenomenal strategy where you are 100% in control of your own business, earning income on your own terms, and have access to the people, tools, and resources you need to build a thriving leadership development business. When you become a Maxwell Leadership Certified team member, you join a global community of entrepreneurs led by our expert team of mentors and faculty, including John C. Maxwell. You'll also get one of the top leadership certifications in the world next to your name, giving you the boost you need to get started. Visit us online at maxwellleadership.com/join the team to find out more.
Number 4 is determine if there's action required. And I love this, because you're saying to us, hey, not everything needs a response. This is like, it's an issue, you've been criticized, maybe it's a person, whatever it might be. Like, hey, let's determine what are next steps. And it's not always that we need to respond. But I think we need to make sure we understand. And so, is there action we need to take? Do we need to right or wrong? Do we need to make sure that we are doing right versus being right? Go through that process to make sure that you fix whatever you may have done and you didn't realize it until you received the criticism. And so one of the ways to do this is, again, if you have determined, as Perry said, it's not always, but if you determine, one of the ways to do this is communicate in a way to this individual or the situation. It's like, hey, here's what I heard from you, and here's what I'm going to do to address it. Like, acknowledge it in a way, if you feel comfortable in the moment, knowing that you need and you've determined to take action. That is one way you can go about doing it.
If you receive some criticism, you go away, you reflect on it, you agree that there's an action required. Do you think it's important to circle back to the criticizer, to the person that gave you that?
I do.
I do too.
I do too.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Now, and there are people that do it a lot faster than I do. I am a processor, and so I like to analyze things and think about it a little bit longer than maybe other people. And so I have a different pace of doing that, but I do think that is the right thing to do.
Yeah. I think it just closes first of all, it says, I value your input.
100%.
Even though it was hard. And I appreciate you taking a risk and telling me.
Yeah.
And here's the action I've taken, and I'm opening the door for you to hold me accountable, I guess is what I'm feeling.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It goes back to humility again.
Yeah. I love that. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I love that, because now you told somebody that you're going to address it, and now there's accountability tied to that. And so I absolutely love that. I also have heard John Maxwell say in the past that some of the greatest mentor relationships he's ever had were men and women that he would spend time with, and he would give them constructive feedback. And then the next time he met with them, they came back and said, hey, I heard you. Here's what I've done with what you encouraged me to do. And here were the results. And John will tell you right now that if you're doing that in a mentoring relationship, then that mentoring relationship is going to continue because they're seeing fruit. He's seeing fruit from his investment. I think it's the same thing with criticism, to your point. Not only does it hold you accountable, but then it makes people feel like their time for coming to you, if it was valid, was valuable to you, that they did that because it was for your best interest. Like they want you to be aware of it. But the determine is the key word that you put in there. And I really like that. Like you have to determine that. And we're not saying that in all criticism, you need to do that.
Right. Number 5 is said, restore the relationship with the criticizers if that's necessary. If it was hard news, if it was direct, maybe it was personal. Something John taught us in Laws of Communication was let your connection be stronger than your content. And I think about this all the time, at home especially, but also with the team at work, is that connection over content, Perry. Connection over content is that even though you have a hard thing to say to someone, can you preserve the relationship and say it? A lot of us say hard things and ruin relationships. I break the connection with my wife or with my kids or with my teammates or with my boss or with my peers because I felt like I had the right to say that. I had a right to criticize. No, you may have the freedom to say it. It's not a right. But even if you said hard things, can you do it in a way that preserves our relationship?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm noticing criticized situations, relationships get harmed. I'm just saying, if you need to restore, relationships are always more important than whatever content you have to share.
How do you feel? Let me stay here for just a minute. I want to ask you, how do you feel in regards to, yes, I love we're going to restore the relationships with the criticizers. If you receive it the right way, and you have the humility that we started off with, oftentimes the relationship probably is going to be in store from their perspective. You may internally be struggling with that. Is it okay then to also be like, hey, I appreciate that. We're just going to agree to disagree and leave it where it is and let it sit in there? And then you're not necessarily addressing that. You're not probably going to change it because you're agreeing to disagree. Does that impact the relationship of that? So you come to me and I say, hey, thanks, Perry, but we're just going to agree to disagree. And I just keep going, whatever it is. Didn't necessarily receive it, value it, whatever, we're going to agree to disagree. Or maybe I did. And as I processed it and I was curious and I dug, is that a tension point for a relationship? How does that in regards to, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
No, I like
I'm
it.
sitting here thinking about this and going, because there are times all of us will be like, I appreciate that, but I'm going to agree to disagree. I think that I should eat that Whopper, and I'm going to do it right now, right? So I'm trying to get Perry to help me with what's going to happen tonight when I pick up a burger in my home.
You bring charcuterie home.
Charcuterie home, yeah. So, how does that come across? Like, how do you go about that? Like going, and then is that the right language to use when, you're being criticized?
I think I see where you're going, but so you've criticized me. I've assessed it. I determined that I did the right thing. I made the right call. You just don't like it. And am I under obligation to make you feel better about my decision?
There you go. I didn't articulate like that, but I think that's where I'm going.
I don't think I'm under any obligation to make you like my decision. Although I go back to you made a great point about curiosity. I'm curious. Why are you objecting? Why are you criticizing this? And so I might learn something with my humility. I might actually learn, how did you see it? Maybe I did. Maybe I communicated it wrong, or maybe you heard something I didn't say, or maybe I said something I shouldn't have said. I have to evaluate, why are you criticizing? Because I'm not changing, and I'm not actually apologizing for it, but I don't. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, because maybe I made a bad communication.
Right.
Did other people see it this way? But you're the only one with the courage to come and tell me.
Talk about it.
But let's say you said we're going to agree to disagree. I might just tack onto that, but I really appreciate you having the courage to come and tell me. That. And now I think the relationship is solid. And they say, well, you don't ever do anything I say. Yeah, well, I do actually, and I'm open to that. In this situation, I'm not.
Yeah,
and
I like that. I like both of those closing statements right there, because I think even you just saying it to me, I'm imagining we're having this conversation. It's like, okay, well, he heard me, valued what I said. We're going to agree to disagree and move on. And that's not going to be every time. And hopefully you're not having the same person give you criticism every time too. But it's in situations where, no, you really believe that you had the right motive and you were doing the right thing. It just, they didn't feel right about it. So they're bringing it up to you. Yeah. So, all right. The sixth one here that Perry has for us is reflect on what happened and then capture any lessons learned. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier about 100% evaluated experience. Let this whole experience, whatever it is, let it sharpen your leadership lens. Take something from it, right? Like everybody in this world is different, right, than you. And so they received it. Their bias or their lens of what happened was one way. So allow that to expand your leadership lens. And then we're working right now, and you are working very closely with Valerie Burton on resilience, right? Not only does John talk about what he talked about earlier about constructive or criticism, constructive feedback or criticism, but he also says there's never two good days in a leader's life. Okay, and he's not. Yeah, he's no hold button, no holding back about that. He's not in a row. Yeah, and so this is going to happen, and so allow these experiences, and then you evaluate them, and you journal them, and you think about them. Allow those to increase your resilience as a leader. And this is something you and Valerie are working on. We're going to be rolling out to organizations around the world very soon that we're excited about. But just thinking through that, what you guys are working on and taking this, and it's going to happen. It is absolutely going to happen. And so how do you go about doing that and learn from it and journal, change your lens a little bit of how they received information, and then allow it to reinforce your resilience as a leader, because you're going to absolutely need that. Well, as I wrap up for us today, thought about a couple of things. My greatest growth as a leader came from criticism.
Yes, I was thinking that too.
And it came from criticism that I probably reacted and defended in the moment. And
I forgave you.
Well, I was going to bring it up, but now I don't have to. We're going to agree to disagree that was the appropriate comment. But like I met some hurt, some didn't hurt as bad. Yeah. Some I defended, some I accepted, some I did some things we talked about today, others I haven't. But no doubt about it, the best growth I've ever had as a leader has come from some of those conversations that were hard for me to hear. And so just know that criticism comes from all shapes and sizes and places, and you're not even going to be expecting it. And you're going to all of a sudden get a phone call or a text, and it's going to come out of the blue. So expect it, embrace it, learn from it. And then my challenge to you is to lead better from it, because I know that you and I are sitting here today and we're leading differently, and we're leading better. We're leading more effectively because of people that cared enough about us to criticize us or give us constructive feedback. I like using constructive feedback when they say they cared enough about you. I've also heard you talk about this, in rooms, even with executives that we may be doing some training with, where it's like, man, the value I have for that team member and the potential that team member has to change the world. If I don't give them that constructive feedback, and so you also have to understand there are going to be times that people want to give it to you because what they see in you, and you got to be willing to accept that. And it's not always easy to do that, personally or professionally. Right. And so I hope today just gave you maybe a different perspective. I love you brought this topic up because we're going to get it, and we need to know how to handle it and then learn from it.
Totally agree. Great insights. Thank you. As a reminder, you can get the learner guide for this issue. You can learn about our other offerings, especially the 5 levels of leadership, or our other podcast offerings. You can get all that at maxwellleadership.com/podcast. You can also leave us a question or a comment there. We love hearing from you, and we're grateful that you'd spend this time with us today. That's all from the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast.